captioning option down at the bottom. It's the little CC box. If you are if your heart language is Spanish, you can hit the CC box and it will translate in real time.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I'm super into Google Meet these days because, well, A, we pay for it, but B, it works well. So I want to welcome everybody. My name is Chris Frazier. I am I handle media and communications for the Free Methodist Church in Southern California. I also work with Free Methodist USA and Free Methodist World Missions, just in various capacities, going and helping our people sort of tell their story. That's my job, helping people tell their story. Our co-host, our group person is Pete Wilson from Purpose Church in Pomona. Pete, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, yes. I've known Chris for I don't know how many years. I don't even want to think about that. It's been too many. We're old now. But we met each other at Purpose Church. I know Chris actually has a longer history there than I do, but I've been working there for 20 years. I was a young 20-something-year-old kid that came out of Azusa Pacific, wanted to get into the film industry. And somebody got my name that was on staff at Purpose, and they hired me, and I've been there for 20 years. So running all the audio, video, tech, overseeing all that good stuff. Now exploring a lot more with our kind of communication stuff as well. Graphic design, website, social media, all these things, they all kind of go together. They're all one big package. So been doing that for many years, love it. And yeah, that's probably the really short history of Pete. Also, I was at a Free Methodist church prior to working at Purpose Church. I was in Pasadena, which I think is Rose City now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I worked there for a couple of years, and so I actually have a very warm spot in my heart for Free Methodist. It was a very kind of important time in my life of growing both spiritually and just as a person on his way to figuring out what he's going to do.
That's an interesting piece of all this, is because I don't think people understand media, and I don't know if our pastors understand this. Our media groups are one of our most important discipleship groups at a church. Like the work that we do with the people that we work with is discipleship. I was over at LACC, one of our churches. They just recently got back in their building, and I was talking with the head of media, and I said, "So, did you expect to become a Bible study discipleship leader when you started running the overheads?" He's like, No idea. He's like, "It has challenged my faith in huge ways." And I was like, yeah, exactly. So I want to encourage, first of all, every one of you, and we'll do introductions with all of our guests here as well. But I just want to encourage you. You are a discipler too. That is your primary job. It's not to, put up mics. It's not to make sure that the sound or video looks good. It's to be a discipler. That's your first and most important job. But with that, if you would like to go and introduce yourself, feel free. Unmute yourself, and we'll just kind of take it one by one so that everybody can get to know everybody. Why don't we go with Karen? If you would like to, feel free to do that. I know you said you're busy. If you don't want to, that's okay too.
I'm okay right now. So, hi, my name
Okay.
is Karen. I'm from Confraternidad Cristiana. My first language was Spanish. I learned English in 2010. I'm 23 years old and I love doing sports. I am the leader of the multimedia team in my church and the leader of my youth group as well.
Nice.
It's amazing how often that those two things go together. Yasmin, let's have you jump on in.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yasmin. I am 26 years old. I go to ICC or Confraternidad. I co-lead with Karen, and we're based in Azusa next to APU. And we lead on Sundays. That's our main streaming day. But we co-lead together on Fridays for our youth.
And Peter, is it Peter Pete?
Either one.
All right.
I'm Pete. We got a Living Stones church here in Winchester, Pastor Justin's church. I mainly do live stream, and
I do PowerPoint. I do ProPresenter. I do the Instagram, and help out wherever. I'm Lynn, by the way.
That's awesome. So just as a little background, I actually was at Foothill Community Church for a number of years. I was an associate pastor there. So I know where y'all are at. and we've been working with Justin for a while on, hey, you guys are doing some cool stuff. That's kind of fun seeing what you guys are doing. So yeah, our churches we have some amazing growth happening right now. And it's super encouraging to see. Which means that we have a lot of needs. So just as a matter of just getting announcements out of the way really quickly, our Facebook group is the primary place where you can communicate and talk about this stuff and really connect together. We we ended up with Centerpoint ended up having a bunch of gear that they were getting rid of, including like effects, processing boards and all that kind of like speakers and speaker arrays and LED panels and all that kind of stuff. And they ended up hopping on, and they're now working with a couple of our churches to make sure that this gear gets to them, including like projectors and all that kind of stuff. It is, the Facebook group is really, really cool. It's an opportunity for you guys to sort of take it upon yourselves to connect, which I think is really important. I think it is so easy to get to this idea that you're doing it on your own, or that you're the first person to have tried to figure out this stuff, and you're not, right? There is this unbroken chain back to Jesus that is all the people think about it. The first media person was probably, I don't know, like Luke, right? Like he's the first comms guy, in terms of the church. And so we have this unbroken chain of communicating the gospel to people. And you're not alone. You are absolutely not alone. So Facebook group, make sure to jump on that. We're looking to go and do a tour. And I think it would be awesome to tour Purpose if we could, just because we could
love to have everybody.
It's in Pomona, so it's kind of central. It's equally out of the way for everybody. So except for me, I'm actually relatively close because I'm up in Crestline or Lake Arrowhead area. And but we're looking to go and do a tour, and probably not in the next month, or I don't know. We'll figure it out. Just because of Easter. That's kind of the thing. Is Easter is a thing. So but we're looking to go and do that. Make sure to go and check out the Facebook group as we go and plan that, because I think it would be awesome to meet with all y'all. I think it'd be cool to take y'all to lunch, free lunch, if anything, maybe gift bags. I don't know, free microphones. I'll give away free microphones. Why not? You need a microphone.
Maybe I'll have a table of old gear that you can peruse through.
Dude, that would be awesome.
Because I have a closet that I do need to clean out. Well, maybe I have 3 or 4 closets that I need to clean out.
Nice.
So I sent some stuff down to Mexico. Our pastor's son I don't know if we talked about this. John just went down to be a part of a church in Mexico that's connected with Chris Brown's church, North Coast.
Yeah.
And so, they were in Peru, and then now they came back because of COVID and all that good stuff. And then they just went down to Mexico. So I sent his son, Alejandro, with just a trailer load of old gear because he wanted to get into recording. So I said, all right, well, you got a good internet connection, because you're going to have to learn about Firewire. You're going to have to learn about, an older Mac, all this good stuff. So I sent him cables, microphones, interfaces. It's all older gear, but it still works. So I got them loaded up with some old software that I had that I'm not using. And so, it was
awesome.
Kind of fun because I gave him, it was fun to see the stuff that got him excited. I think I had an old guitar I threw in there, and
nice.
So it was cool.
Nice.
Some of it I can't throw it away.
Right. You never know when you're going to need it. I still have cables from 30 years ago that I made because I MIDI cables that I hand wired myself from 30 years ago that I haven't used actual the 8-pin MIDI in 30, 20, 25 years, something like that. Actually, I think my ONV, I think the ONV was the last time I used it because it actually controlled all of the automation on it. So,
Wait, an
but
ONV, like the original ONV?
I think it was the Mark II. I think it
Okay.
was, yeah. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
good
I had
number.
it hooked up to my Mark of the Unicorn 2408. I had a 2408 back in the day. I loved that thing. That was a nice thing.
Nice.
Yes, Yasmin.
For that Facebook group, do we need a specific link or are you able to link?
Oh, I figured everybody was on it. Good grief. Yeah. Well, here we go. Here we go. All right, let's do that. I put it in the chat.
All right.
So that should be there. So it's facebook.com/groups/FMC media.
Thank you. Yeah, this link was shared by our pastor for us.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
She's very passionate about it. I mean, both of our pastors are very supportive, but
Yeah.
this is the first time our church has done something like this because it seems like because of COVID and the circumstances, a lot of Spanish churches, especially we're not like a mega church, we're I guess we're a medium church, but these types of topics and the multimedia team is fairly new, I suppose, to our system. So the fact that Karen and I, especially me, I'm a film student, and so she's trying to push us to get to explore that area, mostly in church, but also in our careers, and know that how you were mentioning at the beginning, also that we're not alone, because it always feels like, okay, you guys are just cables and cameras and all of that. So when she heard about this, she was very excited and let us know to join it. So that's why we don't have a link for the Facebook. So
That's
sorry
cool.
about that, but thank you
Hey,
for sharing it.
That's exactly what we want to do. That's perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. You're the right people to be here. This is awesome.
And speaking of just so we've been focusing largely on like church media stuff, and today sort of the topic we were planning to go and talk about Easter, and planning for Easter and all that. But you mentioned that you're a film student, and both Pete and I have backgrounds in video and film. I'm more of a documentary filmmaker, and Pete has been doing this.
Oh, dude, I should have brought it. I was cleaning out some stuff in the closet, and I found. So when I was at APU as a film student, I made a Steadicam, and we're going back to 2000 and 2000. It was 2000, and there was not a lot of options. I mean, you can get all these cool, stabilizers and all this. So these were the first like handheld, kind of like not with a gyro, but just balanced.
Yeah, just the weighted, right? Yeah.
So one of my fellow student or classmates he acquired like a dolly system that was kind of piecemealed together, and I brought in this thing that I made, and everybody kind of laughed at me. By the end of our shooting schedules, I think there was like about 6 projects we were all working on. Everybody's like, "Hey Pete, can I borrow that?" And they abandoned the dolly because it was so quick and easy to use. And I actually drew up a little blueprint that I actually drew of like myself like planning it, so I have it hanging in my office at the church. So.
Nice.
It's funny because like a lot of the video gear is so inexpensive now. I mean, like you can get like a Ronin SC, like the original SC for, I don't know, like under $200 these days. And then what you do is you crank a monopod onto the back end of it. This is what I do. You crank a monopod on the back of it, and now you've got like a full-on jib. Like it's like you can do amazing shots with this stupid thing. It's totally jank, but like it works.
And that's Chris and I, you'll see we kind of go down these tangents. Hopefully everybody likes to go down these little roads with us because I'm enjoying it. But we, like my age, and Chris is a little bit older than me, we've lived kind of through all the transitions of technology, right? So like I got to go to Africa with APU to document one of their missions teams. And we had the first like DV cameras, the Canon GL1. I mean, that thing was incredible, but I go back and I look at the footage and what I can just do on my phone right now. Like, oh my gosh, there was these beautiful landscapes that were just, you didn't capture any of the color depth or any of the, with those cameras. And now what we have, I've recently been able to go to India, and the camera I was able to take with myself to India, plus just having my phone as a backup just to document, it's such a night and day difference. So it's a cool, for all the things that aren't great about today, in 2023, there's some really cool stuff technology wise. And as we utilize that to, lead people to Jesus, and it's pretty cool to think about the tools we have to do that. So
Yeah. So talking about leading people to Jesus, we were talking about Easter and planning for Easter and thinking about that. Uh, Partly because, one of the things about Easter is that if you aren't planning already, you're probably too late to be thinking about Easter. And
I see some nodding there. I see some nodding.
yeah, and Purpose is a big church. Like Purpose is, they're I mean, what, like 6,000 on a Easter these days?
A little less, because the history, we used to have our Easter services for about 20 years at LA Fairgrounds at the Fairplex. And so,
Oh, right, you guys are in the building now.
yeah.
Right.
So, and that we were actually literally in like kind of the final contracts and planning mode of 2020 for Easter. And then this little thing called COVID-19 was sprung upon us. And I can remember it was the whole week that was happening. We were literally in our final kind of like contract meetings to get that all set up and going. So that would be that when we were at the Fairplex, I think in its peak may have been, they always throw the number about 10,000. The reality was it was about 6,000 people would attend that. And then we've moved back to the church, obviously 2020 being online, 2021 we were outside in a tent. Last year, 2022, we did a major renovation of our sanctuary, and we had been talking about the idea of having Easter on our campus because there's so many reasons that it just is so much more beneficial. One of just the cost, like we would spend so much money on rental, and we can kind of maybe get in. I can get into that now, or do you want me to wait? Get into the So for us, it was a great place that was very a non-church setting that was more friendly to non-church people to come to the Fairplex. And really, but the only two positives were that and that it was outside. Everything else about it was not comfortable seating, not a good spot for kids, really expensive, just to get a PA. I don't know if anybody's been to, what used to be the racetrack at LA Fairgrounds.
Yeah.
But you're in this massive grandstand that can hold 10,000 people. The acoustics are terrible. So, we'd spend, crazy amounts of money just to rent and the sound was good, but it's still, with bad acoustics, it can only be so good.
Right.
Couldn't afford video at all. Video walls, they would be, at the time we were there, the quote I had was about $80,000 just to rent.
Well, and with outdoor services, and that's one of the things about Easter. I don't know how many of you guys are planning to do like an Easter sunrise or something like that. Media becomes a whole other thing because, like, how are you supposed to compete with the sun?
Yeah.
Like a projector that has enough lumens to be able to go and outcast the sun that's an expensive unit.
Well, projectors, I don't think it's physically possible to do it with a projector in sunlight. I was looking at the specs that you'd have to have for the brightness. So an actual projector, because this is one I've had the conversation with. Oh yeah, can we just throw a projector out there? Because projectors are so cheap. And like the best projector we own, I still would have to wait till the sun has completely gone down.
Yeah,
you still have the glow of sunset, and then it's just barely visible because the lumen output of the sun versus the lumen output of a projector to compete it's pretty crazy. So light is your enemy with projection.
I just got a pair of the chip on board. They're basically they're like the Aperture 600Ds. They're daylight balanced, 500 watt, but they're really, really bright.
Mm-hmm.
And I can kind of compete with the sun, like 500 watts, just kind of get in there. And that's a dedicated single cob like this,
Yep.
What do you get?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No.
So in terms of thinking about Easter and what's, sort of how we understand and plan for it, what's your core like guiding principle behind thinking about Easter and the way that you're planning for it?
So for me, one, this year's been a little bit chaotic because we've been through so much transition. And then, like I said, last year was our first year doing Easter in over 20 years on our actual camp. Well, in our worship center. I guess we had done it 1 year before on campus, but that was, pandemic stuff. So doing it in our worship center has changed actually that planning process quite drastically. So there's a lot of planning, because I don't know if anybody's done an offsite event where you try to coordinate all the things that you would do in your building
Right.
in another space. That's a whole another layer of planning that actually I'm really thankful that we're kind of like taken away. So
Right.
for us, it's kind of thinking about what are the elements that are going to go into it. A lot of logistical things. We obviously this year, because we are back on our campus, we're like thinking through, kind of just the traffic flow of our people. Where do we want, we do baptisms. So like that's something that we add. We have a baptismal inside, but we want to have that outside. So
Right.
thinking
Right.
through that. So really it's a lot of logistical meetings early on. We just kind of started those the last few weeks, which I think we're kind of a little bit late on, but the nature of everything. In a perfect world, I would have loved to have been having these meetings back in maybe like October.
Right. Is anybody else planning to do baptisms for your Easter stuff?
I don't have
Okay.
any idea what Justin's planning, but
Cool.
he just spurs them on us every once in a while.
We have a meeting tomorrow after church. That's probably when we'll get all the information.
I have to say, so it is one of those super impacting things. Oh, I'm sorry. I just noticed the questions there. Sorry about that, guys. If I'm spacing out, it's because I'm not usually a moderator. But yes, thank you. Yes, I think, is everybody using Planning Center pretty much at this point? Like, I think pretty much everybody does. Wasn't
Yeah.
Planning
That's what-
Center? It
that's
was
what
built
we
by
use.
APU people, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I
Yeah.
think Aaron, what's his name? Aaron something or other.
Yeah.
He was a year or two, I think, in front of me.
We are APU alums, so
Yep.
we have to have a little bit of a little bit of college pride. Yeah, so I would say that is one of those baptisms on an Easter, man, that is a thing. Like,
Yeah.
there are a few that are more powerful. Backyard baptisms in a pool, like just like, hey, yeah, let's just do this. That's my number one. That's like an anytime, anywhere. Yes, we will do that. But an Easter one, that is powerful. That's a moment,
Oh yeah. Well, and kind of jumping back into the planning. So for us, we have kind of two sets of planning. And how we kind of split up our team. So we have
Okay,
kind of the non-service elements,
sure.
which are a little bit more now, because like I was saying, we used to be at the fairgrounds, and it was really challenging because we didn't have all of our facilities. So we didn't have a good spot for kids, students, all those things. Now that we're on our facility, we can have the kids go to their normal spot and they can have kids programming. So we're going to do something special. We're going to have a concert for the kids in a separate space with a gal whose name is Jenna Lyra. She's amazing for the kids. Just like she's such a genuine person, connects with them. They have a ton of fun. So we have that. We had her last year. We actually have had her for the last couple of years for Easter. And it's just great. And that's the kind of stuff we couldn't do at the fairgrounds. So we have, and then we jump into the service, and we kind of have a separate, like, or different planning team. So we'll come together as kind of, not the whole staff, because we have such a large staff, but kind of key people from the staff will kind of form an Easter team. And then we kind of disperse into, okay, this smaller group is going to go work on all the logistics of we call it kind of the outside stuff, and then the inside stuff. So the service, we have an amazing worship producer her name's Tina, and she's kind of taken on a lot of our admin stuff, specifically with how we plan services and our music teams, because we have a choir and orchestra, and we have a contemporary band. So we do both, and with not a lot of time in between. So it takes a lot of planning to coordinate all that. So we kind of have a template, and then jumping in, we use Planning Center. So we kind of have this template that we use, I guess you could say, of, hey, these are all the things we can fit into a service and the time frame we have. And then we kind of then divvy it up into, okay, music teams, you guys go and you work on these elements that we need. We usually want to have some special video elements. For us, we have, being in Pomona, we're trying to engage our local community. So we've been doing a thing called microsites. And so we've kind of lived through the evolution of, what was it? You had video venues where people, you'd record somebody and they'd play it in a live service instead of having a preacher. Then we went to then that was kind of the multi-site phase. and we've shifted through all kind of those versions of that. And now we're seeing where people are actually going out and having these microsites where they'll go to like an apartment complex, and it's kind of like a little bit larger version of a small group. So
Oh,
they'll get
that's
these,
cool.
yeah, and it's really great. So you go and you meet these folks where they're at, who would really probably never come to a church no matter how much you would invite them. And then you start meeting them where they're at, and because whatever it may be, cultural or language barriers. And then as they kind of like, one, hopefully accept Christ, start to get discipled, then what we're working on is maybe, 3 or 4 times a year, Easter being one of them, where we bring that community into our bigger service. And it's, it's a safer environment for them to, kind of fit in. And then we're going to make sure that we focus on a couple elements that will make sure it's inviting to them. So that's one.
Right.
For me, that what's new this year is trying to figure out how we integrate, because we're primarily English speaking, but trying to bring a Spanish speaking community into our service.
Right.
I've been trying to figure out and even though we're a big church, we don't have a lot of financial resources. We have pretty good financial resources, but to add an ideal situation of how to do real-time translation during a service that's primarily English speaking has been something I'm trying to figure out without doing it, how to do that without a lot of money. So that's kind of a new element, but kind of getting into the planning. And then, like I said, we have a planning center flow of our service. And so we just kind of start with, hey, what did we do last year? Take out the planning center, remove all the elements that we did last year that aren't going to be there. And it's a very nice, because I love, outlines and templates and all that kind of stuff. So we've got the template of what we did structure wise. And then we just kind of look at it and say, hey, is that going to work? What worked? What didn't work? What do we need to change? What do we need to add? And so, yeah. So, and then last year, our big focus was our first day in our worship center was Easter. So we had a freshly renovated sanctuary. So that was just the big excitement of that on top of everything. And this year, now that we've done it and we know what we're getting ourselves into, we're like, okay, now we can actually focus on what other elements do we want to have in the service, other than just being, in a fancy new worship center.
So what are you doing so 2 things. One is for the microsites, are you like, you said you were integrating them in. Are you like doing anything where like you're telling their stories? Are you planning to do like any like video packages where it's like highlighting them as, hey, this is something else we do. We want you to know about this.
Resource wise, I don't know if we'll be able to pull that off by Easter.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's absolutely something that we've been talking about, kind of like, and we've done kind of some written stories and some like testimonials that haven't been on video. But yeah, just resource wise, that's something that's needs to get bumped up higher on the priority list.
Sure.
That's for sure something we need to do.
Well, it's a major investment in time. I
Yes.
mean, I've been trying to get to all of our churches and shoot them. And I'll tell you, 2 weeks, like I've spent the last month basically just visiting all of our churches, and the travel time is non-trivial, and simply being there. Like,
Yep.
I've got a church more in my life in the last month than I have gone ever. And none of it is my church.
And I lost, not to pull anybody away from their churches, but I lost my part-time videographer editor. He left and went up to Canada to film school. So, and we haven't been able to fill that spot yet. So I need a part-time person to help with our video recording and editing. So that's, our team has been kind of just, added that back onto our plate. So that's something that we're looking for. So anybody knows somebody looking for a part-time gig in Pomona, we can use them. They need to have a few years of experience of recording on video and editing. So,
which is the thing.
Yeah,
I'm looking for one too.
And photographers.
Yeah. So, okay, so that's actually a good question. So how many of y'all are planning to live stream your Easter service? Are you planning to live stream it or not, or record?
We live every service, so I don't know. I mean, we're not doing anything special. I think it's just a regular service, but we always live stream it. So
Cool.
Yeah, same here. We will record it as every Sunday. We still don't know the details. Just like Peter, we might have a meeting for it soon.
Gotcha. And we actually will be live streaming. So we do a pre-recorded online service that we kind of like debut and play as if it was live stream. But Easter is actually the complexity of what we do, and resource wise, we're not at a point where we can fully pre-record that. So that will be actually one that we're going to live stream. So
Yeah, that would be a tough one to pull off an entire service because, like,
Yeah.
well, the timing's different too. Like, you have to edit it differently.
Yeah. And because, like I said, so as I was mentioning, we have a traditional service with the full choir and orchestra,
Right.
and then we have a contemporary service. So this one, we combine that together, and that's another special element of our service is it's all combined. So instead of having separate services, it'll be the same service for our service times, and it's all combined. And it's also, a heavy outreach focus on Easter because it's,
Right.
kind of one of those times. Easter and Christmas, that's one of the only times they might come to church. So we want to make sure that make sure we have opportunities for them, to hear what they need to hear.
Well, and then you have to transition people in and out of out of the worship center because okay, how many of y'all are planning to have more than one service? Are you planning to do just one or two or one? Okay.
Just one.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, like, once you get into multi-service transitioning guests, because there's one thing with members, like members, they know the drill. Like they know, hey, get out to the patio so that we can make room for the people coming in for the next service. We got somebody else coming in. Cool. Whereas guests, it's like a whole other thing. Like you have to educate people coming in. Bellin, did I say that correctly? I want to welcome you. And we got a microphone that's off. That's okay. When you get a chance, go ahead and introduce yourself, and we'll welcome you to the group. But it's good to have you here with us. So thinking about sort of staffing for Easter, what's different for you guys in terms of staffing for Easter production? And Pete, you can jump on that one because
I'll just jump in and kind of mention what we do. So we do have a pretty large team to do what we do, which is actually a fairly new thing. So there used to be the team of one, which was me. So I feel everybody's pain. It took many, many years to get to a point where I had a team, and it was actually during the pandemic. So one of the positive things that came out of that was because everything shifted to my department and we were completely online. So we had the technical resources to do that. We've been streaming forever. I think we started experimenting with streaming like 2004 or 5.
Yeah, it was a long time
back in
ago.
the Ustream days. And because I walked into a church that had been doing cable access and leased access, essentially a edited down TV show version of our worship service. They had to meet 28 minutes and 30 seconds. And we actually were making physical duplicated copies of tapes. And I said, you know what, we got to get out of this world. And so, this is pre-YouTube even.
Do you guys still have the CD duplicator?
It maybe there somewhere. It's not in my office.
Okay. That thing's huge. It's gigantic.
Oh yeah. It could do, I think it was a 10 bay. It could do 10 CDs, but I have created a little archive station, like in a corner of my office where I actually have a reel to reel. I've got a really high end scanner because we have just thousands of old slides. Let's see, VHS, 3/4 inch video cassette, all that stuff. So we got into streaming. But during the pandemic, it was like, I can't do this by myself. And so I had some volunteers or some extremely part-time folks that they gave me regular hours. So now we do have a team. So kind of it's, for me, I don't have to necessarily hire a lot of extra people that I used to have to do in Easter's past. It would basically I would just be getting all these folks that would be either freelancers or my volunteers. I could pay them for that weekend.
Right.
So now,
what would you say the percentage was of freelancers?
For Easter, it would be, if you include the audio crew, it was pretty big. I mean, I would jump up to maybe like 8 people I would have to hire that I didn't normally have.
Yeah.
And for us, thankfully, we're in a spot where now it's just a scheduling issue for my team.
Sure.
So because what we do on a Sunday is actually, that's been another shift, is what we do. A few years ago, I made the comment to our pastor, I said, you realize what we do every Sunday is actually more complicated than what we used to do for Easter only 5 years ago. So our normal Sundays, just because of the logistics of, again, facilitating a full choir and orchestra, and then literally 10 minutes later, we have a totally different band, and we want to make our worship center look like a contemporary space versus traditional space, which was what drove our renovations that we did.
Right.
So now we have a space that really accommodates doing that much better than we did before.
I just want to say, having been, I was the keyboardist in the third group.
Yes. Yep.
So when I was playing back in 2015, there were three groups. There was the choir and orchestra. There was the contemporary, right? And then there
Yep.
was the rock. There was the rock band. I played in the third group, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I had to set up just completely blank in literally 5 minutes, a full like laptop, computer rig with stacked keyboards, my own monitors. I had to set everything up entirely on my own.
Yep.
And it was honestly, it was one of the best parts of my day. Like I love that kind of stress of like, how quickly can I get this set up? And so like you just get to this point where it's like, yeah, this is the best part of my day. Just boom. And then you play and then you tear it all down again. And so like, it's funny because every now and then I'll go into a church and they're like, please don't touch the keyboard. And I'm like, you just have one keyboard that's connected to like a stereo patch. Like, okay, it's fine. It's good. But like, but yeah, like every single Sunday we had to go and tear down, set up, tear down, set up. And so yeah, it's a logistical thing. You have to make sure that your people are actually fairly well trained in their own gear and the gear that's around them, so that they know, hey, like if the guitarist was missing something, could I go and grab it for him? Did I know enough to go and help him get where I needed to go? So that actually gets me to an important question about the whole idea. So we were talking about staffing and making sure that you had the right people. And yeah, you can hire people, but how do you do the training for, because like Easter is a whole other thing. Like, how do you do training for Easter?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was thankfully the way that I would do it is if it was somebody I just had never met and had never worked with, that would be a lot more difficult.
Sure. Yeah.
To bring them in off the street, because I didn't have the time to do.
Right.
It wouldn't necessarily be a training, but orienting them on the system. So for me, I had to make that work as kind of part of our normal Sunday stuff. So that's kind of where, and we're trying to move away to something that's even a midweek training as we're kind of getting a little bit more organized with our teams. But right now it's like, I got to invest in those folks on Sundays. So
right,
making sure that, okay, you're familiar with this, you're familiar with that, or if it is going to be an outside, let's say a sound technician, I got to make sure I bring them in ahead of time and say, okay, I've got to invest in actually bringing that person in
right,
a week or two before Easter, because if I bring them in cold, even if they're professional in their industry, I still need them to be, because what we do is just, it's pretty unique and crazy the parameters we have. We don't have the right amount of time for, we can't just take 2 hours to sound check that you would really want to. We have like 15 minutes. So there's things where you've got to bring people in and get them, and then anybody I bring in, I said, okay, after you've experienced one Sunday, are you going to come back? And some people are like, nope, I'm never coming back to that ever. But usually people like Chris enjoy that. We've got it a little bit less chaotic. It used to be years ago. One of our audio technicians said every Sunday is like, basically we're sprinting on the edge of a cliff, pushing a boulder, and that boulder at some point is just going to go down the mountain, and we're just chasing that boulder, and it's pretty fun and wild. But I would like to not be sprinting and pushing a boulder. We're still up on a top of a mountain. We're walking briskly, and the boulder, I would say these days, is just sitting comfortably in its spot. We're not pushing it. But there are Sundays where, man, that boulder just goes down the mountain and we're just chasing it. And I don't know if you've ever seen a boulder go down a mountain. I've done quite a bit of backpacking in my life, and have nearly been killed multiple times by a boulder rolling down a mountain. There's not a lot you can do to control that thing. So that's kind of like what our experience is. But most people, when they jump in, and hopefully, all of you folks that are here, you obviously have an interest and have to enjoy what you're doing. Otherwise you wouldn't do it. And at the end of the day, I love this stuff too, and the chaos, even though it can be very stressful and frustrating in moments, it also is like, I mean, it's the challenge of kind of overcoming that. Right. So
right.
I'm gonna
Totally.
make this thing work. Okay.
Yep.
We always say, if I have 2 hours, I'll make it happen. If I have 2 minutes, I'll make it happen.
Right.
So that's another thing that's really also important with the team members, is making sure whoever's on your team kind of understands that, and that also kind of falls into,
that's a culture thing. That's a huge culture thing. Yeah.
And even getting into back to the discipleship side of things, working with folks and like realizing like, and there's also this thing called, grace, and working with, so we're kind of like, we're by the law during the week. It is Old Testament. rule, boom, 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 boom.
I love
Sunday,
it.
it is all about New Testament grace. And so like, so let's say our pastor does something and he's like, okay, he was like way out of bounds. He added this thing in that we had no clue about. So we do not express our frustration on Sunday. We are like, nope.
Yep.
This
That's right.
we
That's
are
right.
all about the congregation.
Yep.
And we're all about, again, pointing people to Jesus, and we
Yep.
don't introduce that frustrating moment. We'll have that
That's
meeting on
huge.
Monday, and or whoever it may be. And I know, technicians and music people never have conflict, right?
Oh, ever.
You've never seen
Oh yeah,
a sound person shouting at
musicians
the
and tech
electric
people
guitar.
don't have opinions about things ever.
You want to add a whole new set and we don't have those lyrics in ProPresenter or PowerPoint? Sure. That's my favorite thing to do. So, but I've had folks that have had less than pleasant attitudes when those things happen, and I've had other folks that roll with it. So kind of my job is to guide those folks. Hey, I know this is frustrating. You're not wrong to be frustrated, but you gotta set that aside, and we gotta get along. We gotta do this, and we gotta have a smile on our face.
Yeah.
Because again, as soon as we let that is part of that boulder I was talking about, and it can be for whatever reason it may be. It could be lack of planning. It could be something gets changed, or it could just be our attitudes. Like I've actually seen it happen because again, we're having, the other thing too is this is a spiritual warfare moment. So to me, when things break, when things stop working, that I have no explanation. I'm like, there's no way that should not work. Like I can't reproduce that problem. Spiritual warfare. So to me, when things are like going a little wonky on a Sunday, I know we're actually doing what we're supposed to be doing, because if everything went smooth and perfect, then the devil's probably like, oh, those guys aren't doing anything impactful, I don't need to mess with them. But the more that we kind of have stuff that's abnormal, like we must be doing something good. Like it's going to be a good message, the music is going to be good, because man, that computer just exploded. That cable, why is that cable not working? And then I'll go test it after the service and it works fine. Like that kind of stuff. And I've witnessed this for over 20 years, and I always come back to them like, okay, to me, I know it stinks at the moment, but my goodness, we must be doing something the devil doesn't like, because otherwise I don't have an explanation for that. So, and our attitudes play a huge factor in that as well. So.
Absolutely. And the willingness to just say, hey, look, some things have to go, some things have to stay. Like this has to be okay. Like we aren't doing this for the show. We're doing this for for the spiritual edification of the people who are coming today. There's somebody in the congregation who needs to meet Jesus, right? That's why we're doing this. It's not about, hey, is our picture better than the church down the street? Because honestly, nobody cares, right? Like literally nobody cares. People do care about the audio though. People care if your audio is bad. People don't care if your video is bad. So let me just put that out there. If you're going to spend money on your audio, and then eventually get to your video. But
it is true, Chris, actually, to support that statement. We had we were working on a promotional piece for one of our Bible studies, and somebody sent me a promo video that had been produced. I said, oh, hey, I need an HD version of that, because the version, it was just highly compressed and something. And this person that sent it to me, they didn't understand. I mean, it was visually blurry and pixelated. Right. They couldn't see. They're like, oh, I don't see that on my computer. I'm like, so yeah, that just to support your point is this person, they can't see that, and to them, it's a non-issue. So
just to get to the point of back to the point of attitude, because Easter and attitude, I've seen the worst attitudes on Easter. I've come away and people have just been like, and everybody's just tearing each other apart. But one of my best moments with discipleship, and this had nothing to do with the church. So I have a background in media and tech and all that kind of stuff, and so that means that I'm kind of a fixer for a lot of agencies in the LA area who do big media production type stuff. If they have something that is technically like weird and they need a solution, people will hire me to go and do stuff. So I have worked with Amazon Prime for your consideration events, building weird things, just off the wall things, right? So we're doing the show, and like it's a multi-million-dollar event, and our team's working on this stuff, and we're down there for a week doing our build-in, and And I was beginning to watch as like the teams were beginning to fall apart as they were just kind of going through this process. And I think one of the things is, as a leader, as a person in the position that you're in, you need to have an awareness of your job. Your job is, yes, it's to get the thing done, right? But it's also to be a discipler of the people that you're working with. And so we're about 3 days in, and I watched a guy literally just walk off the job, like literally just like, no, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And it's like, dude, all you're doing is like syncing up a screen and you're having trouble with it. It's fine. Like, you're getting paid. Don't worry. No, he was done. He walked out, and we lost a crew member. It was like, okay, all right, well, I guess that happens. So I go and get into my Airbnb that night, and I'm just in there thinking about it. I'm like, this is an opportunity for us to begin to develop better relationships, better connections with one another. Yes, there's work that needs to be done. Yes, we have to figure out the LED panel that's not working. Yes, absolutely. But nobody's going to figure it out if they're walking off the job, right? So I go, I'm in downtown Hollywood, or I'm in Hollywood, and go to the coffee shop, and I'm like, you know what? Today is the day we're going to have a good day. Today we're going to have a good day. And I get my coffee and I spill it all over myself. And my bagel sandwich is like really poorly done. And I'm just like, today we're going to have a good day. And I'm literally like covered in coffee at this point. Get in, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to greet everybody. We're going to talk to everybody. We're going to give everybody a chance to just talk. And it's just those things. Just say hi, just talk. So I start going through and talking to everybody. And then I go and sit down to go and solder for the next, 2 hours, right? So I'm sitting there soldering, and this woman comes up to me. She's like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, "You have been going through greeting everybody, and everybody's like nice now." She's like, what did you do? And I'm like, I just went and said, "Hi, today's going to be a good day." Like, I want to encourage people. I want to tell you, you're doing a good job. So while getting the job done is important, encouraging people can be so much more important. Um, and I think that's one of the best parts of this job, is just simply being the person who says, "Dude, that was great. Dude, that was awesome. Like, really, really good job with that." And if you aren't doing that, I hope this Sunday, like, I really, really hope this Sunday that you're serious about, like, you know what? Yeah, this Sunday, I'm going to find every person and I'm going to tell them what they did well, because this is a crappy job sometimes, and it's hard. And it's very easy to get down to, we missed this cue.
Yep. Well, and I'm going to say it right now for each and every one of you. If nobody has said that to you, I'm going to say it right now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for what you do.
Amen.
Because I've been there in the trenches and I know how hard it is. And you guys are rock stars. Seriously.
So one thing that, well, we're at school, so we know exactly how you feel about having to set up in 15 minutes. Get there at 8 o'clock, have a little team meeting, and then get set up and have to go by 10. So, and if there's anything wrong, there's like, it's, sometimes it's a frantic morning, but it ends up being an awesome service, but still, we have a great team that comes together and just puts everything together, and we're able to get it done. But yeah, it's a challenge, especially with people, they show up, but they don't show up here and there, so, but it's definitely a challenge, even setting up. I just do cameras and try and get the live stream going, and there's something wrong, we got to change or something, and
Where the lights don't
the
work.
lights don't work.
Gotta go behind the curtain,
Camera doesn't
figure out
work,
why. Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, the lights often don't work.
Oh, yes. And can I tell you how much I'm thankful for LEDs? Go back with us in a little journey to when there wasn't LEDs and you had to really plan out, because you had one light that was 500 watts or 1,000 watts, and it wasn't bright enough, and you could only plug in 2 of them before you pop the circuit.
Yeah.
Or burn yourself. All those fun things. My child, she's going to be 12. She doesn't know life where you touch a light bulb and burn yourself.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. Like, it's just such a weird thing to me, because I grew up, don't touch the light because it's hot. Or I remember one time a balloon or something fell on a light and it started, caught on fire almost and melted. And
Yeah. Well, spots, I mean, dude, spots back in the day were like that was the one thing my dad because I grew up on, doing lighting and stage and sound, and my dad was like, "You need to be very careful. You don't get to touch this until you are significantly older because this is a dangerous, dangerous thing."
yeah, yeah,
Man, 1,000 like, you have to actually do calculations for how much wattage you're using on
oh
that
yeah,
circuit.
yep, yep. 20 amp, which is
Mhm.
gives you 1800 watts roughly, right? So, and that if you have a 1,000-watt light, you can't do two of those.
Yep.
You can try it. It doesn't work for all that long. And back to
Well,
the days of film when I did my first trying to do a day for night shot where
oh,
I
yeah.
had we had a bunch of 2K lights from APU
Mhm.
that we had actually been donated from Universal Studios, which was actually another tangent, which was a highlight of my film school days. Was one of our professors knew a contact at Universal Studios, and my professor and one other student, we got to go in the inner bowels of Universal Studio, like under sound stages, with this
Nice.
guy that had been a DP cinematographer for like his entire career, and he took us in there, and yeah, it was amazing. We're underneath stuff. He's pulling out 10Ks, so
Yeah.
we had a big truck, and we just brought home all the stuff to APU, and
Those are heavy. Those
yeah,
10Ks are super, super heavy too.
yep. And so this was actually, I lived in a house that was owned by the Free Methodist Church. So I was there, and had our little house. We called it the D house. It was a discipleship house.
Nice.
Where a bunch of single guys lived there, and I was running extension cords over to the church because I knew. So I'm trying to, and we pulled it off. It looked like daytime.
And even then, you're still like your cables are still going to be pretty hot.
Oh yeah, I did not
you know,
have the right gauge wire, so like
yeah.
they're the orange extension cords you're not
Right.
supposed to use for really anything, but they sell them, and yeah, it was. I'm actually quite surprised we didn't start a fire. But.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's open this up because I want to give everybody a chance to go and kind of ask questions. And we talked a little bit about the idea of what software are you guys using for planning and getting everything ready. Obviously, everybody uses ProPresenter, or not ProPresenter, but Planning Center. I guess that's the other one is ProPresenter versus what's the other one?
There was a thing called Media Shout. I don't know if
Media
that
Shout.
goes
That's right.
around.
Yeah.
There's obviously PowerPoint, Keynote, Google Slides. There was another one, Evil Worship, I think, that I never used.
Is anybody using anything other than ProPresenter? Yeah. Yeah. I remember the days of transparencies. I was at a little 80-person church with the transparencies, and you had the junior hire who had to put up the lyrics and do that.
I was that junior hire that
Yeah.
did the lyrics with the Sharpie in my pocket because they changed that word, whoop, and you'd see my hand kind of sneak onto the.
Nice. I always wanted, so I had a couple of second transparencies with like little characters that we could do, like little characters jumping around and dancing along.
Nice.
Yeah. 80-person church, So as far as questions that you guys have, stuff that you're working through, concerns, needs, what are some of the questions that you guys have?
Well, I know that you mentioned about like translation. I think that was one of the points.
Mhm.
We're a bilingual church because most adults speak in Spanish and in English. So on Sundays on our regular streaming, we have translation, which is live translation. And so there's times where we don't know where to, I guess, give the space for our translator. They're just behind our pastor.
Mhm.
So I was wondering if there were any tips on how to either completely take the translator out of the frame or include them in the frame in a way that's not awkward, because I feel that at times
you're kind of distracted visually by that because
Mhm.
you're trying to look at the pastor, but they're behind the pastor. So I don't know if anyone has ever
So,
dealt with that.
is that person, is it like, so speaks in English and then Spanish or vice versa, or they're transcribing, or what are they doing up there?
So pastor speaks Spanish and the person translates.
So
And
they're
they're
on,
on stage.
Yeah, they're on stage.
so he
Simul-
speaks in, so he'll say something in Spanish, then the translator will say it in English.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would say,
Suck it up and learn Spanish. That-
And we have different translators too. We're
oh,
very blessed to
that's a
have like
thing.
them.
gotcha.
But yeah, so their height differs. So one day, yeah, so it's kind of
Totally.
weird.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh well, let's just not have the translator on the screen. Let's just have pastor. But then they'll go behind him, and so then there's this weird, because then you just hear the voice. But then when we switch the frame to we have 3 cameras. It's like, wait, what? The translator's behind pastor.
Okay, so Pete, you guys are working with closed captioning translation.
That's what I've been looking into, because for me, basically for what you just mentioned, the distraction factor is, now we wouldn't be doing this every Sunday, but we're trying to figure out what's the best way to, on a semi-regular basis, bring our Spanish speaking community into the English speaking service. So that was the first thing that was mentioned, was we'll just do a translation like you're describing. And for me, I've sat through those, quite a few of those, and I know it's distracting for me, and I'm sure it's probably distracting. And to me, it also kind of breaks up, unless it's a team that's the same, that's working together, and they have a rhythm.
Right.
So it's always the same person, but especially if it's a different folks, and maybe the translation person,
Because they're both preachers. They are both effectively
exactly.
The preacher,
So
right.
that's what happens, is the person we were discussing that would be doing the translation they don't speak at all in front of people. They just know how to translate.
Right.
So I'm like, so you've got your pastor who's great at speaking every week in front of people, and then you're going to throw up somebody up there that's not even comfortable speaking in front of people, but they happen to be able to speak 2 languages. So for me, I'm leaning towards trying to figure out, in the world of AI that's out there now, because in a perfect world, you'd hire a transcriber to do this, what I'm about to describe, and somebody would actually be using a transcription device, and they would be typing in real time, and then you could generate that into either a device that would display the captions, and then the captions could be turned into different languages. But we can't afford to hire a transcriber. So I said, wait, AI is pretty darn good these days. And Chris and I actually kind of stumbled on the captioning in Google Meet that we were talking about, which is built on Google's AI for doing real-time translation. And I've used Google Translate on my phone, which works really well. I don't know if you know about this. There's a transcription feature inside Google Translate. And if you go to the transcription, it will sit there and it'll just like real-time translate and transcribe on your screen. So I've looked at some software that costs a lot of money. And again, these are all typically captioning, but now the ability to do captioning and then choose the language is a pretty common thing. So
Right.
I'm trying to figure out, how can I get that to folks? And so I did a test, and I actually landed on Google Translate, just having it on my phone. I went out in our sanctuary and had it just sitting comfortably, and it's listening to the PA, the audio coming through the sound system, and it was translating it really well. I'm sure it's going to be quirky, and as is any translation with an AI driven, there's going to be, oh, that's not the correct tense and form and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, for what you're investing in it, it's pretty darn close to being, I would say, perfect for the price you're paying,
Right.
which is available. And so, speaking with the pastor of that community, I was going to try to get some instructions, show people how to get their phone set up, and he said that might be too cumbersome. So we're actually going to experiment, because we have some screens that we can display cameras and content on. I'm actually going to try to feed Google Translate from a mobile device, because the transcription only works on the mobile device. It doesn't work on your computer. So I'm going to try I've got an iPad, and I've got a good audio interface, because this is the other one. So I'm going to feed the audio from our recording feed into the iPad. And then I'm going to basically take the video output of the iPad and run it into a device that I can key that as a lower third on our screen. And so I did my first test of getting it set up with the iPad, because the other thing is I've got to get clean audio into this thing, because if I use
Right.
the built-in speaker, where am I going to put the iPad? Because if we're in the room with it and we say something, oh yeah, go to that slide or do that, it's going to interrupt the translation. So I'm like, I'd have to build like a silent box, like the cone of silence from Get Smart. And I'm like, so thankfully I had this very simple little audio device, but I had to get one that worked with analog input to the iPad, because to get video output, I have to use the lightning cable, right? And they've taken all my connectors away from all of our devices. So if I want to get video out, I've got to use the lightning port, and then I've got to use an old school, which I have an old one. It's for like guitars with a line in.
Oh, that thing. No, those are great.
I have
those are really, really good.
I have
Yeah.
one here at home.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I did a test, and I've got it working on the iPad. I just have now I've got to do the get it to key in on the screen. So, and that concept
Brilliant.
you could also then key that into live stream as well. So we're going to use it in person, and then if we wanted to have that key over the live stream, we could do that as well. So that's what we've been kind of experimenting with and trying to figure out. So back to your question, of how do you, I mean, framing it would be just as simple as if you can have the person not stand right behind him. But it sounds like that's what they want to stand there, or they will stand there, or do you have any input with them on where that person can stand? Or are you saying that's also really weird if you just hear a voice and you don't see them?
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering, because when our pastor is speaking, he also walks around the stage, and so I wouldn't want my translator to walk either. It would just be a mess up there, since the cables and everything. So it's really our sanctuary layout has a lot of different, like there's stairs, and then because the way the stage is set, I suppose, there's a lot of different angles, so it's kind of difficult to manage it. But I think maybe perhaps changing the translator at a different angle would work.
Well, and have you guys looked into closed captioning options? Like, so I just did. I was over filming our ministerial candidates down in Riverside, and one of our candidates is deaf, and she just had her iPad out, and it was doing the transcription in real time. Now she could vocalize. She vocalizes perfectly, and so she was able to go and speak to the rest of the class. But she could read the responses that people were having almost in real time. I kind of wonder if that's an option. If you wanted to do your primary preacher just preaches in Spanish. And people have, either their own device, or you have a displayed device that has, a displayed screen that has the translation so that they could read it. I mean, that's not a bad option. I mean, as an English speaker, I don't mind that when I'm in, because I'm in that situation surprisingly often where I just kind of have to read. And I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and I have it
know.
too. So like I was sitting and I had my phone very comfortably kind of on my knee, and I was able to be focused on what's happening on the stage, and then I was able to just have it in my sight line, so I could just, and so for me it was a very comfortable experience. And my limited Spanish, which should be better than it is, I was tracking. I'm like, okay, this is working. This is working. So I could see this is keeping up pretty darn good with them.
It's funny. I completely forgot that. I used to be a pastor at a Chinese church, majority Chinese church. All of our meetings were in Mandarin, and I don't speak Mandarin. I grew up in a Chinese community. I am quite comfortable culturally, but I don't speak Mandarin, and so I had to literally in real time translate. I got translation in meeting, and I actually began to think in that, like I was able to make that shift. I don't know if that's an option, but it's a good option. It's a possible option, and that way,
Yeah.
you're kind of solving to the real issue rather than trying to figure out, well, how do we get the angle for the speaker on camera? Is that the solution to the problem, or is that simply a solution to the angle of the camera, right? Like you're trying to solve for a different problem, maybe.
Got it. So you're saying to use the Google Translation on their phones, on their devices, or
Mhm.
have a specific device to
Yeah,
let
either.
that be accessible? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, with all my research, I was looking at you can buy little standalone translation devices. The cheapest, they're about a couple $100. And I was joking with one of our technicians who's also in IT, and he's like, that's just basically like a stripped down Android phone is what they're running that on.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, almost everybody has a mobile device, and Google Translate's free for all platforms, both iPhone and Android. And so it's just a matter of kind of getting it installed. I would show you on mine, but I'm using my phone as my webcam today.
So this is
Got it.
officially going to be Inception here. um, so language of the meeting is English, and then I'm going to translate my captions to Spanish. So what you're seeing right now is what I'm actually getting, and it's translating me in real time. Now, is that accurate? I'm not sure, but is it close enough? Possibly. I mean, if we wanted to do a quick test, Karen and
Close
Yasmin,
enough, I would say.
interesting. No, just for fun, just for fun, let's do this. So I'm going to switch it over to meeting language is going to be Spanish. I assume we're just going to use Mexico and translate to English. Okay. Yasmin and Karen, just for fun, do you guys want to just speak for a little bit in Spanish and we'll see how it translates you to English?
Sure.
Right? I know.
Bueno, nosotros usualmente la traducción es de inglés a español, de español a inglés. Nuestro traductor usualmente está atrás de nuestro pastor, y ahora Yasmin estaba preguntando también de que si eso funcionaría, sería mejor o cambiarlo de sector de nuestra cámara o también hacer un nuevo, o así como ustedes están diciendo, un nuevo traductor de Google para ver si también eso podemos adaptarlo. Pero no sé, Yasmin, como tú ahora opinas.
Sí,
That's
siento que
cool.
sería algo, una experiencia diferente, pero una solución a un dilema.
Ajá.
Okay, that's actually pretty cool. I can make sense of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I can totally make sense of that. And with a better audio feed, that would work really well. I think part of it is that it's getting audio noise, and that it's the compression is killing it. But like, I think with a clean feed, you would get a really good translation. That's cool.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I mean it's really like if you have Google Translate, you just go in there and there's a transcription, and the real-time transcription has less languages because we also have an Arabic speaking community.
Yeah.
So Arabic is not one of those, but a lot of the folks that are in our Arabic community, they can speak English and Arabic, so it's not as big of a hurdle to overcome. And I think just Arabic is, and it also does Chinese, and our worship producer, she's from China. She speaks Chinese as her first language, and so we were doing some experiments with the conversation mode, and so we were trying to have a conversation back and forth, and it was we could communicate, but she's like, there was some interesting things there. So I think some of the more complicated languages give it a little bit more of a hurdle, but with Spanish it seems to be, and I've used it with, I have neighbors, or just being in Pomona, somebody's come through a parking lot, and I don't speak Spanish fluently, so we were trying to communicate. Say, wait a minute, I've got my phone. I pull out my phone, and we started having a conversation. And what's really cool, and just on that level, was just the fact that you can start communicating at all. It really brings down the barrier. Like my neighbor, he speaks well, he says he only speaks Spanish, and I think he's just more comfortable to kind of, not attempt to speak the English that he knows because he's not comfortable speaking it. So
I get it.
I was out there mowing my lawn, and he had something wrong with his lawnmower, so he came over and was asking me a question, and I said, wait, let me go get my phone. And so we started going back and forth, and as soon as he realized I'm at the same level as you are, and I'm, we just, any words that he did know in English and any words that I didn't know in Spanish, we would use, but then we relied on the phone, and we got there. We figured out what the problem was. And now when we see each other, there's a smile on our face rather than not really knowing who he is, so it's a pretty cool thing to kind of break down that barrier.
Yeah. So just to echo that, so we set up a studio over on our Waterman campus, which is a primary Spanish language campus. It's Centro Nuevo Esperanzas, and they we set up a studio there because they're closest to us and they had the space. Guillermo was super cool about it. Which, by the way, if any of you need to shoot, you need a space to shoot. We have lighting, we have cameras, we have a teleprompter, we have all the stuff ready to go. Literally, just call me. I will be down there the same day. Like, easy peasy. We'll get you graded footage ready to go. Like 4K footage ready to go in your lap in a day. And a green screen and a studio. We have a studio background too, which is pretty cool. It looks like it's all set up like in a
teleprompter, right?
Kind of fun. Yeah, and a teleprompter too, which is huge. But because it's a Spanish language congregation, I wanted to make sure they were trained in how to use the gear. So we just switched all the menus over to Spanish. But then we had to talk through the lighting and the setup of all that. And the woman who basically heads up their media stuff, she's actually from why am I blanking on it? The guy, the dictator guy.
Cuba?
No, not Cuba.
Venezuela.
Venezuela. Yeah, exactly. She's Venezuelan and Spanish primary, but she has film background, but like Spanish pretty much almost exclusive. And so but like we were using the phone and Google Translate because I was remembering Pete, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's do this. And it was able to take care of a lot of the technical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was the hardest thing, was the technical stuff. I grew up in Southern California and basic Spanish, but like it was the technical stuff that I'm like, how do you talk about ISO?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, super helpful tool. But also please, if you need to film and you're looking, like, our cameras are good, you guys. Like, we have good. We're using Sony's. We're shooting at log. It looks beautiful.
We have better cameras than I'm currently using to record our stuff.
and I'm like, dude, it's time to upgrade. We're time to move these things up. But like, please, if you want to film, please let us know and just schedule the time with me, and we'll be down in a heartbeat. Or if you have an event, I will be down anytime and come down and film for you guys. Spanish, English, doesn't matter. We'll just be there. But that said, we are coming on 11:50. Any other questions before we go and close out? I want to pray for us. I want to make sure we get a chance to pray for each other. But any other questions or comments?
Do you know, speaking of a pro presenter, do you know if there's a way to have the English and Spanish? Just if we have Spanish speaking people in there, is it possible to have?
So what version of Pro Presenter are you using?
The latest one, we have 7.
7. So 7, and there was a way to do this in 6, but 7 the first way that I think of that, I have to look and see if you could do it like on the same computer and on the same screen. I haven't tried that. But if you have 2 computers and a network, you can actually have one computer control the other computer. And actually, that's the way it used to work. Now it's actually the way that they're synced up is any computer that you connect will control, like they all are synchronized. So if you go to a slide on one computer and they're synchronized, it'll go to that same slide. Now it's a dumb control. So it's like whatever is in row 1 and in slide position 1 gets selected. So if you have like 10 slides, if you go to slide 10, all the computers that are synced up will go to slide 10. and it has to be on the same playlist and the same show file. So you could have one. You could actually have, let's say, 10 computers with 10 different languages.
Oh, wow.
You'd have to go in and do, if they're all synced up,
Right.
and it's the same slides. So you could have one in Chinese, one in Arabic, one in Spanish, one in Korean, one whatever, and you just click the button, and every slide would go, and you could have 10 different screens.
Okay.
So that would be
That
one
is so
way to do
wonderfully
it.
old school. That is
Yeah.
great.
Do you know if like when we do live stream, can they, like we do Facebook, YouTube, and we have a website, can they click on auto translator and have that on Facebook and stuff when they're watching? Do you know
On
if that's,
YouTube, I know you can.
Yeah.
YouTube,
YouTube-
absolutely, yes.
I was just
Is it-
looking at a video from Facebook and they only had the option of English. They didn't have an option of Spanish. I don't know if that's some setting that we have
Okay.
to do, if that's some setting that they have on there.
So this is actually something you may not be aware of, but your browser has a language. So whatever your language is set up for your browser, that will impact your options that are available in the translation and closed captioning. So I've noticed, for example, that I have to change my browser language to see other languages as translation options.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does YouTube do real-time captioning now?
It
live
did.
streaming?
Yeah.
Because I know for
Yeah.
a while it was delayed, and it would give you the captions after the live stream.
Oh, you know what? I need to, oh boy, because they've had different versions of their
Mhm.
live software,
Yeah.
and let me look into that. I'll post about that. I'll do some research.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll look into the ProPresenter stuff, and I'll put some stuff on the Facebook page, some links to kind of how to do that stuff, because that's one too that I'm, again, as we do these times where we're kind of combining our groups together, I'm working on the translation for what's being spoken.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is it picks up the music as well. So as long as you have a nice clean feed, it was actually translating as they were singing as well. So the thing that I just don't have the resources at this point, probably for Easter, would be to basically what I just told you is kind of having a whole nother version of all the things on the screen in another language. So that's one I don't have, other than doing what I just told you to do, which I know will work. And we actually use three ProPresenters, all running at the same time, synced up. So that's how we do our lower thirds for lyrics. So that's a separate computer that's formatted for the lower third lyrics, and then we have one computer that with one operator, and then we also have content on a different ratio screen. So we have a big LED screen that's kind of our background, and we have two side screens that are normal ratio, and then we have our lower third for lyrics, and it's one operator. So we have to do formatting 3 ways, but once you get like templates set up, and I think they call them themes now.
Right.
Once you kind of get that all set up, you export the bundle from ProPresenter to the other machine, and then at that point you would apply the different theme, and away you go.
Yeah, we're fairly new to the live stream stuff. I've only been doing it for a couple months, so I'm still trying to work out a lot of stuff with ProPresenter. It's fairly new to me. So
now, are you streaming? What software are you using to stream?
Was it ATEM?
Okay. Yeah.
We got a Black Magic
Yep.
Pro thing.
Yep.
And I don't know all the ins and outs of that. I know Pastor does, and it's the biggest issue. The biggest issue we have is training, because we don't have a building to set up
Yes.
that we can go there and we can, work
Show
things
people
out.
how to do it.
We have to transport to somebody's house or somebody's garage, and
Now,
just-
something that revolutionized my life only a few years ago, and I don't know why, because I'm dumb sometimes, was, what do we all have? We have a phone, and it can record video. So I would spend, for my team, I would make these booklets and all these elaborate instructions, and I would tell people, I go out of town, and they call me every day, Pete, I can't get it to work. Guess what I did one time? Like, wait a minute, forget the instruction booklet, because I'd ask them, did you read page 16 on the instruction? No. Look at that. Did you watch the video? So I made little videos
Nice.
of how to use the recording deck,
That's
how
funny.
to use the ATEM, how to use the camera, how to use ProPresenter. We had a remote campus, and the folks that were running that, I mean, a very small church up in Montana, very non-technical couple that were running all that. And they would call me every week. Hey, Pete, how do we do this? How do we do this? So finally I said, you know what? I'm going to make you guys some videos. Sat down, recorded a couple videos with Pro Presenter instructions, called me up. Pete, we don't know how to do it. Did you watch the video? Nope. Then I'm not going to answer you. You got to watch the video. So I would, okay. I spent a whole day making videos for you. I am not answering your question until you watch the videos.
YouTube
guess
was
what?
my friend when I started, just watching
Oh.
YouTube videos on Pro Presenter. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
That's literally what
learning
my
all this stuff,
joke,
trying to
my
figure
joke
stuff out.
is.
So I'm going to show you guys something. If you don't have the Screencastify Chrome plugin, this thing is absolutely brilliant. So basically, it'll record your tab wherever you're at, and then you just go through and you point out, yeah, this. It's screencast software, but here's the thing, right? So yes, there's plenty of screen grab software that's out there. This thing just saves it, and we all use Google Drive now, right? Just immediately saves it to your Google Drive. So now, like, you literally just record it, and then it immediately gives you a share this file button. You just click the button, and boom, it is immediately shareable, linkable. You can share it as many times as you want. Just begin to collect, have a Google Keep, a little document running in the side where it's like, this is how I do this, this is how I do this, this is how I do this. As you figure out something in your software, and I use this all the time, just record it. And it's free. Like, that's the other thing. It's free. So grab it, install it on your Chrome, and yeah, you just kind of start it up, and you just start recording, and it records your audio. And every client, when I do like here is your stuff, always just do a screencast.
And then I just posted a link. So this is one I made because we have a bunch of classrooms that people use on our campus, and I call them self-serve rooms. But we want to train people. So I have this video that walks you through the entire AV system of this room.
Nice.
And I just filmed it all on my phone, slapped it together in Adobe Premiere, edited it. It took me maybe 2 hours start to finish. Now, actually, something's fun. Chris, scan that QR code in the video. So if you have your phone, and then what I did is I made a QR code that sits there where you turn on all the equipment, so people can just scan the QR code and it takes you to the video.
That's brilliant.
But if you scan the QR code, how did I have a QR code for the finished video in the video I was filming if the video wasn't done?
What?
Did it work?
Hold on. I'm doing this.
This is a little Easter egg that I made because I was in a goofy mood.
Shoot, it's not reading it.
Got it. If you find a clear,
there we go. Hold on. Okay.
There's my hairy arm there. So.
Yep. Uh-huh. Nice. Yeah. So it's yeah.
Because anyway, so
that's pretty good.
And this was just, I mean, any of you, if you have a phone and you can, there's all sorts of ways to edit together, and a QR code, there's all sorts of free QR code generators. So this was just actually very simple to do, and this has been so helpful because we have so many different groups of different skill level using this space. It's just a simple sound system with a couple microphones, a couple projectors, and the ability to plug your laptop in. So it saved me many phone calls.
Like the text over here. Oh shoot, hold on. There we go. That it's not super complicated, and you just taped it to the board.
Yep, double-sided tape, baby. Eventually, we'll get it on a nicer sign, but this is what I had access to. And
okay, this I love right here. I love that you Velcroed your adapters.
Yes,
that's kind of brilliant too.
Yep. A nice bright yellow. Please return these so everybody can use them. So.
Nice.
But this is the kind of stuff that you guys can do because facilitating, if I were to have to bring every group into that space and train them one by one, sure, that would be great, but we just don't, I don't have the time to do that. They don't, so now, and in the past I would just schedule, and it would take about 10 minutes for me to show somebody. They'd have to drive there, do it, show them. And now they have a resource, and anybody I've shown, if they forget, they just watch it. Because I've literally, somebody's like, hey, Pete, I can't get this to work. I said, did you watch the video?
Yeah.
No, watch the video.
Yeah.
And there you go.
So that actually gets me to one of the things that I think might be pretty cool. how many of you would be open to us doing we were talking about doing a tour and going and doing a tour over at Purpose, but how many of you guys would be open to doing a training day where like we all get together and it would be 100% paid for. We dinners, all that, whatever we needed to do. Okay. All right. So pretty much we're all good. Okay. Then let's think about scheduling that and looking at dates and times that would work. Because I think that would be awesome. First of all, just to get to know everybody. But I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Every annual conference, I have to find people to go and help like do all the media stuff. It's always like I gotta get my buddies to go and do this. But honestly, this is us. Annual conference is our time to just be together. It's our time to kind of hang out. And how many of all has everybody been to annual conference yet? Who hasn't been to annual conference?
Me.
Okay. Annual conference is our time where we basically get together and it's us as Southern California. That's it. It's just, yeah, it's our business. We do a little bit of voting, but really it's your opportunity to meet everybody else. That's it's our family. This is our family gathering. It's family camp once a year. So now that you know about annual conference, it's May 20th. If you aren't on our mailing list, you can always join our mailing list. You can actually go to fmcsc.org/update. And you can join our mailing list by giving us all of your information. Yay! Everything about you. But you can join the mailing list and you can get information about upcoming events like annual conference and stuff like that. With that, because it's 12 and I want to be careful with everybody's time, I just want to tell you guys, A, I'm thankful for you all for showing up, and B, how can we pray for you? Because this is our time to kind of do some soul care if we need it. And actually, with that, I'm going to thank everybody who's been on the recording. I'm going to stop the recording because, prayer time is prayer time. It's not public time. So thanks to everybody who showed up on the virtual. And then we're going to go into some prayer. So bye, YouTube people. And how do I stop the recording? Hold on. Manage recording. Stop.